If you believe it is easy to write a story, then you are definitely not living on a planet I call planet Earth. Because writing is one of the most difficult things in the world to do. Hi, I'm Isaac and this is How to Write Your Screenplay, a step-by-step guide. Writing is one of the most difficult things in the world to do. Now, why would I say so? Just think a little. Think about how many manuscripts are written every day, every year. Think about how many is finally published, and you will see just how difficult a job writing is. Now let's take it a little further. Script writing is probably the most difficult of them all. Just think about it. How many scripts are written every year? And only a handful of it is ever turned into films or TV shows. Just think about it. Just take time out and think about it. How many people have written some manuscript that never got published? How many people have written scripts for films or TV shows that never got made? You can look at all the professions around the world. People who studied a certain profession and probably had some practical training in it also. And they stand a better chance of getting a job than you stand to get your manuscript published or to have your script turned into a film. But why is it so difficult? When even many successful writers in the fields or people in the field of filmmaking present training using their expertise and their knowledge to teach people how to write, and still only a handful of scripts ever written are made into films or TV shows. That proves just how difficult a job writing really is. So why is it so difficult? Why do so many aspiring writers fail? Now, I said before, it is strange that there are so many books in this world written about how to make your life a success, how to make a success of your profession. But there are no books written that tells you how to fail. And maybe those would be the best books to read how other people failed before they became a success. We look at people and say, hey, that person really must be good at what he or she is doing. Look at the promotions that person got. Look at the books that person published. But we never ever think about how difficult it might have been for that person to be such a success. We don't think about the work, the skills and the knowledge and the learning the person had to do and put in to be a success. You only look at what the person did to be a success. We never looked at the person's failures. So why do writers fail? I will try to amplify this by listing 13 common mistakes that aspiring writers make when they are writing their manuscripts or their script for the film. Number 1, writing something that anyone could have written. That means no originality. Number 2, not enough plot and or story. Number 3, poor central characters, poorly defined central characters or passive central characters. Number 5, no high stakes or stakes that become progressively higher. Number 6, poor or weak adversaries or problems to deal with for the main character. Number 7, no internal strife or conflict for the character to deal with or too little of it. Number 8, characters you have met before. No originality. Number 9, there is nothing for the viewer or reader to identify with as they read the book or they watch the film. Or the writer played too much on the sentiments of the reader or viewer by writing something that they believe the reader or viewer should be familiar with and would be interested in reading. Number 10, confusing the reader with too many things or too much details. Number 11, not keeping to a narrative. Number 12, getting into the story too late or never getting into the real story. And number 13, it might just be a poor or mediocre piece of writing or script. Those are the most common reasons why aspiring writers fail. In this episode, I will highlight some of those problems I've just mentioned. In fact, 3 of them, and I will deal with the others as I continue these tutorials. As a writer, you are never working with new material because there are no new stories that you can write. All the stories that could have been written over the last few years or since the time people started to write stories already have been written. Every theme, every idea for a story was explored before. So you already start with a disadvantage. But this disadvantage you as a writer must turn into an advantage. Why do I say so? No matter what genre of story you want to write, someone has already written about it. And there were some things in those stories that made some of those stories more successful than others. And you can learn from that, but not copy it. You can learn from it, but you should never copy it. Now, how do a writer come up with something that is fresh and original when all the stories in the world have been written already? We'll look at that in future episodes. Not enough plot or story, or too much of it. Now there's a fine balance that need to be kept in a story or script or film as far as plot and story is concerned. Not enough plot and a story, or too much of it, is something we can also see in the writing of aspiring writers. They want to get through the story so fast that they forget about certain details. They forget about certain details. Or they only tell the story at the surface level without looking deeper into the story. Or they give so much information in that plot and a story that there's nothing for the reader or viewer to wonder about. There's nothing to make them wonder what is going to happen next. Or how would the character deal with the situation that is or she is facing if you give every little detail to them in that plot or story, which can actually make it to become really boring. Poor central characters, poorly defined central characters, or central characters that are passive characters. Let me start with the last one here. Passive characters. Something happens to the character, but the character for the entire runtime of the film, or for the length of the story or book, never really do anything to deal with his or her problem. For example, a girl was cheated on by a boyfriend she was about to marry in a week, cheating on her with a best friend. What would that girl do? You have to look at into what emotional state that person will fall. And people that are emotionally hurt will sometimes do stupid things. Why should that girl just sit around moping, blaming a boyfriend, wishing her boyfriend was dead, wishing her best friend was dead, telling her best friend when she comes to her that and to say she's sorry, telling her that she should have thought about it before she had this affair with her boyfriend, and telling people who come to her and tell her, girl, you must try to forgive your boyfriend, telling them, why should I forgive? Did he think about me? That is a passive character. It seems as if that character is doing something in that story, but that character is actually doing nothing about the situation. Now, being emotional beings, sometimes people do stupid things when they are hurt. Why can't that girl run away? Why can't that girl go crazy and try to have nice times instead of sitting there moping the whole time? Why can't that girl go to another place to start her life over and have struggles there as she starts a new life instead of sitting there moping and blaming anyone? Why can't that girl throw herself to the wolves because of a pain and trying to make a pain go away? That would be more interesting than that girl being a passive character just sitting there moping. Passive characters do nothing in a film about the situation they find themselves in or the problem or dilemma they have to solve or deal with. Then you also get central characters that are really weak characters. For example, the character needs to deal with a certain problem and dilemma. But looking at that character, looking at who that character is, you as a reader or viewer would say to yourself, and I can't believe that this character will be able to solve that problem. I don't know how this character, being the type of person this character is, will solve that problem. That is a poorly defined central character or main character. But you as the writer can also always make such a character turn into a character that is believable. But there is certain things that that character needs to do to become a believable character, to become a central character that can be exciting. A central character that can become exciting in the context of the story. So there should be things that the character do to find the ability or the skills to deal with a problem if that character is seen as a character that will not be able to deal with that problem or dilemma. But so many aspiring writers don't show these things in their stories of scripts or films. They don't show how a character develops from the beginning of the story or film to the end of the story or film if the character had no way, no possibility to deal with the problem or dilemma he or she is faced with. They don't think about what a character will do in a certain situation, especially if it's impossible. They don't think about how a character might react in a certain situation. They don't think about how a character will solve a problem that is seemingly impossible for that character to solve. They just come up with rudimentary solutions for the character to solve that problem or dilemma, which makes it boring to watch, which makes the character a boring character. And boring characters, just like boring stories, is something you cannot afford to have when you write that great story, that great script you want to write. I am Isaac, and this is How to Write a Screenplay, a Step step-by-step guide.